So hey folks, welcome to Shaky Hands Workshop. My name is Brian. Last week I made a 40K board, and it got me thinking about making some scatter terrain. And while I was digging around through my bits box and stuff, I found I had a whole stash of CDs. Now these make really good basing material to use, and I figured might as well go ahead and use up what I got. And I'm going to go over real basic how to get a little contour to it, add a little bit of sand, some fine sand, and we'll just be adding bits of debris and stuff to make to make some battlefield terrain. And yeah, I think it'll be I made a set of this for my Western Desert for bolt action, and that turned out really well. They do really well. I like the fact that the plane on these is super thin, and they stay right down there on table level. So when you look at it, it looks like you can see almost see the miniature's boots striding across onto that plane of whatever type of little terrain you decide to make on one of these things. So we're going to turn the camera down and get to work, and I'll see you after a few. So one of the first considerations I'm going to take into account is the miniatures that I'm going to have on this. This board is being specifically designed for 40K. So that means on average we're looking at a 32 mil base as far as my Gorilla math goes. I was kind of doing some playing around with this a little bit ago, trying to figure out what I want to do. So I'm going to start off with hot gluing a piece there, another piece over here, and then we're going to go through and cover this in spackle, and then move on to adding some grit to it, and then some other debris, and then we'll go on from there. So first off, let's go ahead and get this thing. Let's go ahead and get our contours all set up. I'm gonna move this guy out of my way. What am I possessed? I'm still trying to figure out a legion to put him with. I was originally thinking Black Legion. That might be a good one. I've done nothing with Black Legion. Nurgle's been, or the Death Guard has been my current thing. I've got Thousand Suns waiting in the wing as well. So we're just going to throw some of this hot glue on here, put this down, smoosh it just a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and add a couple little bits of interest onto the top. Just gives it a little more height, makes things a little more interesting, I think. Another piece right here. All right, and I've done. I wouldn't get too spun up about perfect shapes and contours and all that. As long as it if it goes with what you're going for, it's good. It's all that matters. Remember, this is tabletop miniatures, man. This ain't art, or not for me anyway. Does it look good when it's on the table? That's all I care about. Or a reason facsimile thereof. All right, just kind of trim that up a little bit. That's set. Yeah, I can get one. Now, if I was doing Imperial Guard, I can get probably two guys in here side by side. So I was opting for the bigger meteor type of play that would go through there. And if you got the little Tyranids, you could probably get a couple, three of those in there at a time. So now we're just going to use some of this dry deck spackle. Main reason I like this is pink. I can see where I've been and see where I've missed, and it also tells me when it's dry. So just get fingers in here and just start smooshing this stuff around. It's like doing with the Mod Podge. You know, the fact it's black, the only reason I do that is so I can see where I've been. and see what I've missed and that type of thing. Let's get in here, add a little bit more. Try and cover up some of these seams like I've got right here. So I'm trying to use this, just go in there and smooth that out, make it less pronounced. Anything that you can trick the eye into making it look like it's one nice smooth contour, you know, that's one of the things that I try and get to work. I'm just going to add a bit of water to my fingers here and start smoothing this stuff out some. And just like drawing compound, add a little bit of water, and there we go. Start getting it all kind of smooth. According to the box, or this is not supposed to crack, and it's not supposed to shrink. And I've used it a couple times, and so far I found that to be the case. There we go. Nice and covered. The other thought I had was trying some gesso, which is it's what they use for, if I remember correctly, it's what they use for canvas. It's basically, it's a primer, and it's got PVA in it, and that might make a good foundation to put on prior to putting spackle and that type of thing on. Just to cover the whole, CD with. All right, I got this thing all covered up pretty well. There we go. One pink biscuit. I mean CD. So, I'm gonna let this dry, and we'll come back to it after it's dried up, and we'll move on to the next part. Well, good morning. So I had to let this sit overnight, get it all nice and dry. Show you what happened. I was kind of pushing this piece, meaning I was not letting it dry fully to get to the point where I can start moving on to the next stage as I kept adding things to it. And well, by and large, as I started adding a little bit of paint to this thing, all the sand and cork and stuff I had done previously started to shift on me. So that's why it's important to let this stuff dry. A little reminder that even though you may have done this several times, you can still screw this up without even trying. So don't push it. Let this stuff dry. Otherwise than that, you know, it gets aggravating. You're like, all that work I did, and now, yeah, here I am. So I just stopped and put everything off to the side and let it dry overnight. All right, so I've got this all covered in the spackle. I'm going to go on and lay down some my bricks and stuff, and some of my debris, and then I'm going to hit it with some grit. And to do all of my debris and stuff, I'm going to use some hot glue just to speed things up a little bit. For this, you can totally use whatever, white glue or super glue if you want to. I wouldn't use super glue on these foam bricks without covering in decoupage or something like that, or Mod Podge, excuse me. But some of the stuff like these plastic bits, I just went through and like, this is from a curler set. I'd seen Eric at Eric's Hobby Workshop use parts of these as ladders. Right, I thought that was pretty ingenious. You just clip out these middle sections and you got ladders and such going up. So, but for me, it kind of looks like, right now, it looks like a decent bit of like construction, like a part of a pier or something like that. So And I went through with some with my Olfa knife, and there's a bunch of extra bits that were standing on there that I just want to get rid of. So I was trying to think of different ways to lay these out. I may just cut this up some more. A little too big. Alright, now I got my plastic bits in. Let's go ahead and add in some of these stones. Or foam bricks, actually. But I'll roll them around, kind of beat them up a little bit. Yeah, for these videos I've made a mistake before of trying to rush stuff, and it just doesn't turn out as well. So I'm just going to take my time and do like I normally do, because otherwise than that, it's not worth the effort, or it's not worth the end result. Kind of detracts from what I like about doing this type of stuff. Yeah, it gets me in my own little headspace as far as making terrain and stuff goes. There we go. And just enough scatter in there, just enough debris and stuff in there to kind of give it sell the ruined type of city environment, I would think. It's kind of what I was going for with this particular scatter, was like some like part of a ruined city or something like that. Okay. So there we go. That's all that on there. Not too bad. We still keep our base width in there as well, which is good. All right. All right, everything's got a chance to dry. So let's go through some old PVA and some water, and just kind of smear this around. Try and be a lot more controlled. A couple pieces I've been working on earlier weren't as controlled, and I wasn't too happy with the way a couple of them turned out. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and get this all covered in, and I'll be back with you in just a minute. Alright, so I got everything covered in a little bit of thin down glue. I'm going to hit it with some sand. This is stuff I picked up at my local hardware store. It's It's called desert sand. It's a soil cover. It's really fine sand. I know some of the sand that, if it's not sifted very well, would be very can look out of sorts with the miniatures and stuff. Try and get as fine as sand as you can. Those. All right. That looks like it'll do for now. Let's let that dry. I don't want to touch it a whole lot more. So I got this thing all primed up. It went through and gave it a wash in some alcohol, and then a second layer of thinned down PVA to kind of help seal all this in, and the primer on top of that. I use like not a hobby primer. I use like a almost like a Rust-Oleum type of primer, a double coat, type thing. So got this. I've got my original colors I did my board with. I try and keep it all the same as much as I can. And I'm going to try and, so I got some of that, some of the brown. I think the original can said a bourbon brown. That's like any of these interior paints, those names change so much. Add a little bit of black, which is what I did for the boards. And now I'm just going to mix this all together, get my base color. I'm not expecting to get it perfect. I'm getting as close as I can get. So I try and do, like if I'm doing a 40K board or any type of terrain series, I try and keep it all, work it all at the same time, so it's all fresh in my memory. And now it's just going through and laying it in. Try and cut in as best I can. Yeah, again, at the end of the day, this is for me, this isn't, a thing of high art or anything like that. It's something for me to move my toy soldiers on and go pew pew, you die. right, I'm gonna snap or press on with this, and I'll get back to you here in a few minutes. All right, so now I've got my initial base color all dried up. I'm gonna go ahead and move on to doing my stones and my metal bits here. So for the stone, I'm going to do a, where'd it go? There it is. I'm going to do a German field gray. This is some of the extra paints I got, and a sky gray. These are both model colors. You know, whatever color palette that you like, yeah, that's one to go with. That's for sure. So I'm going to do my base color in the German field gray, and then I'm going to move on to 50-50 with this, and then another, and then lighten it up again to do my final color. On stuff like this, I don't spend a whole lot of time doing the dry brushing and all that type of stuff. It's, you know, does it look good from 3 feet? Yes. Okay, that's all I care about. For right now, we're just going to go through and get all the blocks. All right, while that's drying, I'm going to go ahead and hit my metal parts, my metal bits, with some black gray. I got into using black gray for metals, doing bolt action. The Warlord Games had a step-by-step guide, because I had no idea how to do World War II, or a lot of historicals for that matter. And this was one of the steps that they said to do. And after doing that for a while, it's like, you know, I really like the look of that. And so I've been bringing that across to non-historical games and stuff like 40K and that. And it's got, I don't know, it's just got a nice look that I like for the metals. So anyway, that's where, yeah, you find a technique that you like, and bring it across. So I'm going to go ahead and move on to dry brushing the stone and the metal. And I always do the ground last. That way, if I get any overbrushes and stuff, I can blend it in with my last highlights or dry brushing and such. All right, let's get in here with the makeup brush. Let's go ahead and do more like an overbrush type thing. All right, I'm going to crack on with this, and I will be back in a few minutes. I got all our stone done. We're going to go ahead and move on to my metal parts. So I'm going to add in, try this again. This natural steel color can be kind of irksome when you get to putting it on, but if it's well mixed, not a big deal. I do a mix of that and the black gray, so I keep my original color. All right. Let that sit for a minute, and now I'm going to go back to my stones. Just a little bit more of the sky gray and kind of lighten it up one more time. I was adding this to whatever I had already used before. There we go. going to do the same thing with for the metal. We're going to hit it with some silver. This will really brighten it up. I found that using more of the natural steel doesn't really do much for it. Plus I want a little bit more lightness with that, if that's the correct word. Now to kind of add to the metal just a little bit more, I'm going to use some technical paint. I'm going to use Typhus Corrosion. Well, I've been doing my Death Guard here lately. This has been using this a lot. Let's put it that way. I've been using that a lot. And I'm just going to kind of dab it here, almost stipple it. Make it look like the 14th Legion's come through and kind of caress some of this metal or something. Alright, now I've got that. I'm going to go ahead and add in some, or start doing my final brush over the base itself. This stuff can be as easy or as complicated as you want to make it. So I'm going to add some of this. I call it a sandstone. I forget the color. I was just trying to keep things relative to in my head when I was doing my desert boards. And this has a similar, like I said, it's not 100% perfect, but it looks a lot like the boards I did earlier. And there we go. I'm just going to let that dry, and then I'm going to hit this whole thing with a black wash. This is a homemade wash. I got the recipe from Jeremy at Black Magic Craft. I think I mentioned that in a video in the past. But I'll do that, and then we're going to hit it one more time with the Sky Gray overall, just a dry brush, just kind of pop everything back up a little bit, and that's it. So I'm going to make sure this thing gets dry, and I'll be right back. So having a hair dryer handy, not for my long locks of hair that don't exist, having a hair dryer handy is really good to speed up your painting process. Like I said, I never thought of that before until I saw Miniac doing it. I was like, huh, never thought about that. Alright, now we're just going to give this thing a loving lathering of this black wash. Now this black wash does have a bit of brown in it, which I like. It's got a nice little bit of grime to it and such. I'll come in here with a makeup triangle and just dab off all the excess. That's why I can afford to be a little heavier handed with the wash, because I know I'm going to come back through and take off the stuff that's really just not needed. Now, if you like the super heavy wash look, yeah, then ignore this entirely. All right, we'll get this to drying and be back with you. And there we have it, guys. The CD-based scatter terrain. This is the board I did this past week. I worked these other two pieces up over the weekend as well, and a little different on. I used modeling compound or Sculptamold on the bottom for instead of the spackle. Just try different different things, see what you like. The Sculptamold will take longer to dry. It will take probably a couple days to dry. But as we're getting into the warmer seasons, for me anyway, you could probably put these outside and they'll probably dry in a couple hours because of the warmer weather. All right, enough rambling on for this old guy. So I will talk to you all later. You all have a good week, and you all stay safe. Bye.